All right, you guys, so here's what we're doing. We have got our setup here, and what we're going to be doing is setting this up right about so. So we've got a line that's going to be for this machine for the future, a line that's going to come down here. This is going to be regular hose that just attaches to these. We'll have a cap on this end, and then we'll have more lines going downward, another 24-inch extension that's going to attach to our 6 to 4. This is going to be for our fiber lasers. So this is going to be one line that comes down, and this will be for our fiber lasers down at the bottom. So instead of having to run 2 of these separately, we're just going to have one right in the middle that operates both fibers. I think that's the most practical, easy way to do it, instead of having to do another line. If anything, we'll just leave the other line for another laser, another fiber that'll be farther down in the corner. Then we'll add that extension later on. So we've got caps for the ends of these. A lot of this material we've been able to get from Lowe's. So Lowe's will have probably some of the best deals when it comes to the galvanized steel and the fittings. So the fittings anywhere from $17 to $18 for your 3-ways, as well as your angled 3-ways. And then I think these 24-inch pieces here, these were only like $5 or $6 a pop for 6-inch. Now we're going all 6 so that we have great airflow. Our 6 will go to, well, this setup will go to the 6-inch fan that is supplied by Thunder. And then that fan will be supported by a 8-inch fan that we have up in our ceiling that leads out the attic. So that's what we're going to be doing with our setup here. So we're going to be showing you the easiest way to do this. You'll be needing some small little tiny drill bits to drill for the holes for your screws. It just makes putting in the screws a lot cleaner and stuff. And then you can get a little tighter when it comes to what you're doing there. And then you don't have to utilize steel type screws, you know, with the little steel bits on the end of them. You can just use normal screws to be able to tap these together. Our setup for the fiber, it probably won't be set up like the machine itself for another couple of weeks. So what we've actually done is we've got a little cap here for our setup here that we can just kind of put right on that, and then we can kind of squeeze this down and tighten that up. And what that will do is that will seal this completely as you turn it. It's a drain valve. So you use these when you want to seal your shower drain tubing to be able to run a water test. So you can find this at your local hardware store, at Home Depot or Lowe's, in the plumbing section where the 4-inch pipe would be. So this is a 4-inch gripper here made by Odie. The part number is 33403. So as you can see right here, I can't pull this thing out already. So the rubber gasket has already sealed itself to the inside of that. So the wonderful thing about that is when we're ready to put our hose for the fiber, we can just unscrew this and pop it right out. Now it's great with 4-inch. They don't really have them in a 6, you know, at Lowe's or Home Depot. So with a 6, it'll be a while before we figure out what machine is going to go on that second table over there. We kind of built it, the table, based on a bolt dimensions. So who knows, if Thunder decides later on, hey, we want to send you a bolt, and maybe you can do some highlights on that machine as well, we've got the table for it. Or if another company hits us up and said, hey James, we want to send you something that you can utilize for that space, you know, we'll send this machine out to you and it'll be the perfect setup for that table. But we have a nice cap here, so when we get that laser, all we got to do is unscrew these right here, pop this off, connect our hose, and boom, we now have, you know, fan to run for that laser. So we're thinking about expansion as the future goes, which I think is very important. So that's one thing that, you know, we do here is kind of rack our brain first and then put it all in motion. So Thunder supplies a lot of cool hosing. So we've got this great hosing that'll be utilized for the upper and then connecting the machine. But we have some really nice industrial rubber tubing that we'll actually use for this Thunder. I think it's going to be a lot nicer. And what I would suggest to help with the space behind the machine, this right here, because of the way we're running it, the machine has the port in the middle, in the back, the 6-inch port. It utilizes 6-inch ducting for this machine. We're gonna actually attach this to the back of it. So this connects to the machine, and then this just 90s straight out, and it's gonna make it easier to run the tubing this way, and it'll be nice and clean and it won't pinch. It's gonna be hard to bend it like this, especially for this tubing that we're using, because it's a little more solid. This tubing you probably wouldn't have a problem, but I just want to create a little better flow with the 90 and then having it curve nicely upward to the point of connection right there. Now you're probably wondering, how the heck are you connecting it to the wall? These clamps on Amazon. So these will be in the description, but these basically clamp right around and they'll bolt in. So you can get 2 points of clamping when it comes to your system, and that should hold everything in place. And then these brackets basically come in like so, and then these brackets will go like that. And then these brackets right here, you mount to your wall. And then you can hit a stud very nicely or put some anchors, and then you're gonna be good to go for your wall. And if you wanted to, you could even put some support foam in this. Just go to Lowe's or Home Depot and get some weather stripping and put some sticky foam, you know, back in there. That way you're kind of just getting a little nice rubber foam support around this, and that'll actually compress it maybe a little bit better. Just my suggestion, especially if you paint this, that might be a good idea so you don't scratch it all up. I don't know if we're gonna paint this yet. We'll see what it looks like in the end. You'll want to tape all your seams when everything is said and done. You know, these seams here, these seams around all your bolt points, and maybe even possibly sealing the seams around your hose connection where the hose meets the galvanized pipe. You'll definitely want to tape around that as well. So for this project, we're utilizing 3 T's. So one T for one machine, another T for another machine, and then this T here, this will go up to the fan. The fan will sit vertically. You'll probably watch my other video, my shop planning video, and it'll kind of show you what our plan was for that. But yeah, it's gonna go upward, and we're just gonna use the basic hose that Thunder supplied to connect from here to the actual fan itself. That way, if we ever need to clean the fan, that's something that's easy to remove because it's just clamped on. And then from there, we'll put another 2-foot extension on this end, and then it'll end to the 6-to-4 3-way over there, and then we'll have an end cap on that, and that is our system. It'll be done and ready to go. And then after we have this Thunder up and running, then in the following weeks we'll start adding the fiber laser. That's what we're doing, guys. So here we go. We decided to go with the galvanized cap on this side. It fit better, so that's what we're using there, but we'll use that one on that end because I was able to pound this one in, so we've got a nice tight connection with this one, and that one's set up for future expansion over there, so we're good to go. Now, of course, we're pre-drilling because it makes it easier to put our screws in. And we're using self-tappers as well. You could, because you're pre-drilling, not have to use self-tappers, but we're just using the, you know, the 1/2-inch flathead style Phillips screws. So these over these, and these would be your normal ones that you would use. I don't like these because I feel like when you're taping around it, you're gonna have this little thing that's sticking out like a pimple. I just think that's retarded. So we're just using these because it'll keep the tape a lot flatter in the areas where you're adding screws. So we're gonna tip this over, you know, and when you're handling this material, just be really careful with it. You don't want to cut yourself, you know, wear gloves if you can. And we just need two screws to hold this in place. If you want, you can do 3. You know, that might be fine, but we just need to get something secured a little bit. And you don't need to use a lot of torque when you're putting the screw in. So make sure, what I like to do is just I screw it in a little bit, and then I just use a Phillips the rest of the way in and kind of snug it up, and I'm good to go. All right, you guys, so we've gone about as far as we can go today with our ducting. So we're waiting on the ceiling damper that we're gonna add to the middle of this system. So the joining pieces for both this and this will be the damper setup. That's what we're waiting for, and that should be here tomorrow, which is pretty cool, next day shipping. I tried to get one that was early shipping between 4 and 8, but they didn't have one similar to what I wanted. The one I wanted had a very tight fit in the inside. The damper was nice and tight, and it just looked like a clean piece. So that's what we're waiting for. It has a nice rubber handle, so that should be a nice system. We're just gonna be putting it on one side. Currently, I only feel that's what we need. So that's where we're at. So we're getting closer. First time really building a custom setup like this. I mean, I'm familiar with it, but it's, you know, piecing everything together and trying to figure it all out. You know, sometimes it just takes a bit of Jedi mind working. So let's show you what we did. So here we're running it'll be our cap Laser 1 machine T. So this will be hosed down, 24 inches. This is standard. You don't have to cut nothing. So that's why I went with these. If you went 5 foot, you'd have to cut them. But these are cheaper, or these are pretty cheap. They're not expensive. I think they're like $5, $6. 24 inches was perfect machine to machine. So this will be machine 2. So whatever we get in the future, hose down, that'll connect to that laser. To complete this, we're basically just waiting for the damper here. That way I can just connect all this in one shot and put it all up in one shot. We got to mount our clamps to our studs on the walls, so that way I can have one person holding one side of it while I'm clamping one end in, and then clamp the other end in, and then we're pretty much done and ready to go. So this is it, guys. This is so far the setup. Stay tuned for part 2, because that's where we're going to complete this system, possibly get this thing painted so it all matches beautifully and kind of matches my walls. And then that's it. We'll power it up, and then finally we'll be able to get something going with the Thunder laser. And then you can pretty much from there know what you got to do to be able to set up your custom shop. So part 2's coming. If it's not already at the end of this video, it will be out soon. Later.